Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Blast Motion Podcast. I am Kyle Attl, and I'm joined again today with Joe Tourville, back by popular demand. Today, we're going to talk about our PBR Super 60 event partnered with Prep Baseball Report. We're going to talk all about what it is and dive into some players that really stood out to us so we can learn a little bit more about that. Joe, how are you doing today?
Great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming back. Our episodes with you always do really, really well. So I'm excited to kind of get back to this. Let's talk a little bit about just what the Super 60 event is, when it happens. It's a yearly event, happens right around February 3rd or 4th, right before the Super Bowl. Tell us a little bit about it and why it's so important.
Yeah. So the Super 60 is a pro workout put on by Prep Baseball Report, who we've been partnered with now for a little over 4 years. That you've been involved with as well. And then, but the main purpose of the showcase is kind of like, so a lot of these like pro high school draft prospects, last summer kind of went on this pretty crazy summer circuit. And the thing is like, it's so crazy. It's like back. And all these kids just grinding out showcase games, tournaments, showcases themselves, workouts, pro workouts. And you really like a lot of these players aren't going to be able to make adjustments on the fly that they figure out they probably need to make, especially for like some guys who haven't faced other players of their caliber as much. So for like the Super 60 is a really cool opportunity for guys who have realized they probably should make an adjustment and of some sort go before going into that high school season of their draft year. The Super 60 is like a great showcase for those guys to show off that adjustment, to show that they can make this adjustment, whether it's like something in their swing, whether it's strength, whether it's flexibility, whether it's health. Some guys maybe went on the summer circuit who weren't like fully healthy. And then another really good thing about the Super 60 is sometimes guys got missed on the summer circuit because either they were injured or they like just didn't get seen enough. For example, like there's like in Iowa, the high school baseball season is like in the summer. It's not in the spring like other states. So sometimes like guys from like a state like Iowa will get missed, or sometimes a kid from like a crowded talent pool of California and Florida will get missed, and they don't get invited to summer circuit. But they played in like, the World Wood Bat or something like that, or some like crazy showcase or crazy tournament and did really well. And they're like, man, we should probably get another look at this guy, or some area scouts want to get a good look at this guy. So PBR does like a really good job, especially because they host a lot of tournaments to like Lake Point, of seeing all these guys and IDing guys that like maybe they got missed in the summer circuit that should come to Super 60. So that's pretty much like the purpose of it. It's a really good workout. Every year we get like someone who just kind of pops off. Like last year it was Nazine Zanatello. Everyone knew who Nazine Zanatello was, at least most people did, but there was like a lot of question marks going on him because his performance was like fringe, although his tools were there. And then he obviously made like some really good adjustments, and he came to the Super 60 and he showed out defensively, offensively, speed wise, arm wise. And he definitely made some adjustments to his swing that just made it look way more cleaner. And it showed off in his blast metrics, and those were highlighted all over the place. And then he went from like a guy that might end up at college, some people thought, to I think he was competitive balance round 1. So like technically like a first round pick to the Red Sox. And then years before that, like we've seen guys like Max Anderson comes to mind. Max Anderson did not look like a draft prospect aesthetically when that first Super 60 we went to. But we all like, I think me, you, and Jacob Howardson back then, we all like loved him because of his blast metrics were just so good. So there was something obviously there. High RA, good bat speed, and he was like 90 degrees in early connection and 9 degrees in impact over and over again, which is like something super rare. But yeah, some people thought like we were just like kind of like silly for thinking he was like one of the best hitters there. Goes to Nebraska, won Big 12 freshman of the year, had really good a couple other 2 years, and then he was first or second round to the Tigers? Either way, I think it was first round Tigers, second round Tigers. Anyways, he got paid, and he's in the minors now, and we'll see how he does. But so yeah, that's like the fun thing about Super 60 is like you get to see some guys polish some things out from the summer circuit that they probably need to. And then you get to find guys that you just haven't seen yet before, and you get really excited about them. Another guy like Christian Knapchak. Christian Knapchak, I never heard of. I saw him at the area code games, but like never really paid attention to him. And he had some of the best rotation acceleration metrics like I've seen. And then he's a little guy as well. He's like 5'9" and 150 back then, soaking wet in high school. And then he went to University of Louisville, and I don't think he ever swung and missed. I think he actually swung and missed like 4% or 6% of the fastballs he saw in his college career. It just didn't swing and miss. It was incredible. And of course, like the Guardians scooped him up, pretty good profile for the Guardians. And he's entering his first year of pro ball, and we're going to get to see him a little bit. I saw some video of him this season. He's thrown some weight. Now it looks like he's hitting some home runs. So, but yeah, Super 60. That's what it is.
It's good to see these guys pan out. I think it's good to call out, the Super 60, it's in Chicago. It's at an indoor facility that's shared with Top Tier, which is a travel ball academy program. Huge indoor facility. It's got, volleyball courts, the big track. There's soccer going on too. So they hit and they work out indoors, which is really cool. It's always kind of like a colder weekend with some snow. So getting inside to really see these guys, it's a very unique format. If you haven't looked it up, follow Prep Baseball Report on Instagram and Twitter, and you'll see that type of stuff. Joe, I think it's important here to call out, too, that PBR Super 60 is an invite-only event. Each state director, they're located across the United States, have certain invites that they bring. So certain players from the year get there, and they get to go invite, and they get that invite to go and be at the Super 60. Lots of pro scouts there. It's a really, really cool event. And I think we've seen a lot of big names come through there, as you were mentioning. It's super important. Another thing, too, is, there's events and showcases that happen at the state level all year through PBR. So an opportunity to get there, if you're listening to this, attending a showcase in your state, knowing your state director and seeing what those metrics are. It's a good combination of blending technology and data along with the visual eye test for athletes. So, guys that perform at their school or with their teams as they're playing all year, the showcases are a really good opportunity to not only showcase your skill set, but get some data as well. Understanding where you fall and what people are looking at from your data. I mean, we're talking mostly about Blast, but they have TrackMan as well to really understand, what adjustments do I need to make to play at the highest level? And the more kids can do that and make those adjustments, the quicker they can kind of turn around and see where they're going. So if you haven't been to a PBR event or a showcase, highly recommend you go there and kind of get your data collected, see what happens in your profile. You can start making adjustments to go from there. So, Joe, with that, let's dive into some players that stood out to us. I think the first one you want to talk about was Tyson Lewis was a big standout. Let's learn a little bit more about him.
Yeah. So I'll start with Tyson. To me, Tyson was the best player there for sure. And I think it's no secret that this draft year is pretty light on high school bats. So it's finding a good high school bat is at a premium this year for sure. I saw Tyson Lewis at area code games, and I was pretty impressed. And then I saw him at Super 60 more closely, and I was really, really impressed. So I'll start with his rotational acceleration metrics or values. He averaged 21 Gs of rotational acceleration. So MLB average is 17 Gs, and that's just like, it's not even just that he averaged 21 Gs. His peak was 23.8, but like every swing, I'm pretty sure was like above 20 Gs. It was a consistent 20 Gs. It wasn't like some sort of like biomechanical hack that happened once in a while. It raises average, what happens once in a while. It's like a legit above 20 Gs swing. And then with that, his bat speed averaged 74 miles per hour, and he did get up to 80 miles per hour. He let it rip a couple times. And then just a little background on him too. He's a Nebraska kid, and I love these Nebraska kids. He's a Millard West high school kid. I can't get away from these Millard West high school kids. I feel like I always show up at the Super 60, always see them at the area code games. I played with some Millard West kids who remind me every day they went to Millard West. I get it. It's a great program. And they seem to produce players like Tyson. He's an Arkansas commit as well. He's been committed there since June 1st, it looks like. He's a left-handed bat, and he's a shortstop. I think there's questions whether he's going to stay at shortstop or not, because the frame is good for like adding some size and adding some power. With that 6'2", 194 frame, there could be maybe some questions whether he moves off that a little bit. My stance on that. If you hit, you hit. And if you hit for production, you hit for production. So, yeah, we'll find a spot for Tyson Lewis at some point.
Yeah, just taking a step back, if a lot of people are familiar with rotational acceleration, and we're talking about bat speed too. Bat speed is a good indication of raw power. The faster the bat's moving, the harder that ball is going to hit. But rotational acceleration is really that power efficiency. If you think about like the 0 to 60 time of a car, it's going to be how the athlete accelerates into their peak bat speed. And at the highest level, rotational acceleration and that rate of force development that we have, it's really important to hit velocity, multiple pitches for strikes, and just a higher caliber of pitching. So just catching some people up on that and why it's so important. And it's something that we always look at. An easy way to think about rotational acceleration, single digits is a little bit lower. Anywhere in the teens is going to be your average, 17 being that major league, just like you said. And then 20 plus is what we just call lighting it up.
Yes. And to add to that, I would say the raw power is more of like the frame plus bat speed, because you do get some lighter guys who figure out a way to whip the bat pretty fast. But with the mass of that guy, that kind of adds to the raw power profile a little bit. And then, as you said, Kyle, yes, like that rotational acceleration makes like everything more efficient. It makes the on-plane efficiency more efficient. It makes the bat speed more efficient. It makes everything more efficient. But yeah, so that's kind of like his like power profile. His on-plane efficiency, which is the measure of the bat, how long it's on plane, percentage on plane, was 82% on average, which is really good. Which is like really, that's kind of like a premium, because like we see like on-plane efficiency numbers like all over the place on high school guys, especially the draft prospects for whatever reason. So to see that above 70% and that 82% was really encouraging. His average attack angle is super flat, which makes it's funny too, because after I started looking into him a little more, and there was some reports on him where his bat tends to get a little flat anything above his waist, and that's kind of funny because that's kind of what we see here, because it's the showcase BP thrower who's throwing the ball in the same spot over and over again. So you're comparing his attack angle to other guys who are seeing the same pitch in the same location. His average is like 9 degrees, which is like in range, is good. But like I think with his frame and with the bat speed numbers, he probably is a good candidate to steepen that attack angle a little more, to try and lift the ball in the air. If he was, swinging the bat on average 68 miles per hour, I'd probably say like, yeah, 9 degrees is a good spot for him. That's probably where it should be. But yeah, I think it's kind of like he's kind of a candidate for steepening that a little bit over time. And then I'll go into his early connection metrics, which, the measure of the bat in relation to the body on the start of the rotation of the swing. It's a little high. It's like 108 degrees. It's out of that 80 to 105 range we're usually comfortable with. However, like, we usually kind of like talk about adjusting that early connection metric if the on-plane efficiency metric is like kind of out of whack. His isn't. So I don't think it's something he necessarily needs to like adjust right now in his load. Because the variance in that metric, the early connection metric, the load is small. So it is pretty repeatable, although it does start a little high.
Yeah. We see that a lot with guys with good rotation. If you can accelerate the bat quickly, it's going to find that plane a lot faster.
Yes,
so
exactly.
He might be a little high, but as soon as he gets going, that bat falls right where it needs to be, and he's on plane with that smooth swing path.
Exactly. So it's just like not a concern. It's just like something to highlight. But one thing that was really interesting too is like his connection to impact was at 92 degrees. So he's like consistently finding the sweet spot and connection at like a very very good place over and over again. So and then his like result oriented data with his like exit velocity got up to 108 miles per hour in exit velocity, which is really cool. He averaged around 98.1. But yeah, in all, I just thought Tyson was probably the best player at Super 60. Here's the thing that's like really interesting about Tyson that kind of convinced me he's like a legit top 100 pick type draft prospect. So like it's really hard I think it's become really hard to evaluate showcase BP, even with like data, because it's like there's no like secret that like players are incentivized way differently now at the plate. They're incentivized to hit home runs. Like we see guys who are getting paid in Major League Baseball. We see guys who are getting paid at the draft. It's guys who can like hit a bunch of home runs, hit the ball hard, far, over and over again. So that has transitioned into like showcase BP with how these guys are incentivized to swing the bat. Where, like if you looked at a showcase BP video from like or we're at a showcase event and watching BP, like, 10 years ago or something, 8 years ago, it was more spraying the ball around. Like, guys were showing off how they could spray it around. Now it's like, let me show how hard I can hit the ball and how far I can hit the ball, which is good. Like, because we need to know that. Like, that's a prerequisite that we have to figure out. But what I've noticed is after like 4 or 5 swings, these guys are such good athletes that they just start anticipating that BP, like that pitch, because it's the same pitch over and over again, the same location. Like, usually these BP throwers are really good at these showcases. So after like 4 or 5 swings, or maybe after 1 round, at that point, they're just anticipating where the ball is going to be already. And they're such good athletes that they can just anticipate that really well. And they are just taking like massive hacks, and we see it. We've seen the data in like comparing from BP to like in game and like area code, where it's like a 10 to 15 miles per hour difference in bat speed from like BP or BP to like in game. And so like BP kind of turns into like almost like this bench press now for the workout for guys just showing off their power again, which is good. But at the same time, we have to be able to figure out this is like a tool that can translate into professional baseball and into like Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
This is why like Blast is like super helpful, which is why I freaking love working at Blast. Because the one metric that really helps you like clear that up is like rotational acceleration, because that doesn't change too much from like the showcase BP to in game, because it's the same movement over and over again. But one thing I've been noticing is guys with high rotational acceleration, their difference in bat speed and in-game bat speed is a little less, which means they're actually able to take that same high intense swing they're taking in showcase BP in games. And Tyson Lewis's data from like showcase BP to in game is like identical. And we have a really good sample size of in-game swings on him at area code games, and then we have a ton of BP data on them as well, because area code games and Super 60. And he's like one of the only guys. There's like one other guy who has a similar data set for like BP and in game, and that's Slade Caldwell, who I think is becoming the consensus like best high school bat in the draft. And their data is very similar, as in like their data sets for BP and in game are very similar. So they're both like able to like put off these like super high intense swings. Yeah. Another thing that's I'll add about Tyson that I think is super interesting is he did make an adjustment to his load, and it's like we don't see like a ton of like crazy increases in rotational acceleration on average over time, but he did find a way. So like in area code, he was very like loose with his hands, and he worked his hands back to get into that position. At Super 60, he started just with the arm bar, just starting them back there already, and let it rip from there. And,
like preset load.
Yes, exactly. And we've seen that adjustment with certain MLB teams with players. I know like the Astros do it a bunch. You can see their guys still do it. Like Bregman kind of does it a little bit. Altuve does it. Springer was doing it. And that adjustment, although not like aesthetically pleasing, I've already heard like little like scouting reports where it's saying like, oh, he's gonna have to clean up that little arm bar. And it's like, no, like the arm bar was the adjustment. Like that was the cleanup from like what you guys think he needs to do. Which is like sometimes we fall into like falling in love with the aesthetic of how nice a swing looks when like we just see like what the swing is doing. This is the perfect like case. People thought like I've seen already comments like aesthetically they didn't like his new swing at Super 60. However, the data shows that like it's better and it's like way more improved, and he did look better. So yeah, I'm sure you can find video of him like at area code, and then look at the video at Super 60 on like PBR's website, and there is like an adjustment I think is paying off really, really well.
Yeah,
he's gonna be a high school bat. I'm gonna watch very, very closely. He also ran a 6.4 60. I think it was the fastest 60 at the Super 60. So you can add that.
Flying.
Wow. Yeah.
I think it that brings up an interesting point too on just capacity versus competition when we're thinking about the bat speed stuff. I mean, we typically see higher bat speeds in a showcase environment because what you said, they're anticipating the pitch it's batting practice. We're really being incentivized, or the players are being incentivized to hit the ball hard and hit those bat speeds. But what you bring from a bat speed standpoint to competition and what you get in game is sometimes going to be different. So, the capacity could be really high, but if you're bringing 10 miles an hour less to competition, that's valuable information to know. And then you have these guys that have good acceleration and their engines are moving really well, that gap between capacity and competition is a little bit smaller. So that's why it's so important to get data, not only in a batting practice or a showcase setting, but to get it in game. We see rotational accelerations consistently change between those two environments. Sometimes hitters get better in game. The pressure of the ball and the pitch coming in really drives their acceleration higher, or sometimes they can get a little handsy and be a little bit more worried about contact. So the guys that do it the best have a smaller gap in their capacity versus competition. And that's something that you can directly train around. If you have a large gap and you're not bringing as much bat speed as you have to the game, that's super important. And, this is where a lot of times people talk about, these guys are just swinging out of their shoes and it's too much. Like, the best hitters find a balance between that control and that violence. So the dudes that have controlled violence in their swings are really the ones that the data shows, and then it's showing in competition too. A lot of times when we're scouting, data is really important, but how the player's performing, what their at-bats look like, how they perform in the game is going to be the bigger part of it. So those two make a really, really nice story on evaluating players. It's not all about the data and it's not all about what we see, but it's this nice blend of both, really giving a full picture of what's going on.
Yeah,
I heard someone call it's an enhanced perspective. And ever since I heard that, it was Carson Vitale on a podcast with Ian Miller, and it was awesome.
Oh, that's
enhanced perspective of what's going on. We just have more information nowadays, so we might as well use it. And there's a lot of guys getting a lot of value out of understanding and getting that enhanced perspective.
Yeah, and to add on to that too, like that's where like a lot of times where like the struggle, like when a player like struggles and they have like this high bat speed or whatever, like a lot of times they think it's like a mechanical thing you need to fix or like a load thing you need to fix. A lot of times it's just like a preparation thing you need to fix. Because if you can swing the bat that fast and showcase BP, and then like there's a lot of guys in this draft class or in general, like they go to a showcase and they're swinging about like 83 miles per hour, and then we have like in game data on them, their average BP or their average bat speed is like 65. That's like a pretty normal thing. I think a big thing with that is not that like it's because like the showcase BP is not like the real bat speed or anything. It's like a preparation thing. And like when you first go into a showcase circuit too, like it's hard for those guys to prepare because a lot of these guys are like the big fish in the small pond. They're not facing like the area code pitching they're facing right now. And so like a lot of times I think it's just like a preparation. It's not like it's a preparation training type thing to incorporate. Like they need more training that's similar to in-game situations. Like, I've had guys like send me like really good like blast data and be like, what should I work on? I'm not doing this or that. I'm like, what does like your workout looks like? It's like flips. It's like, well, yeah, it's because you're not seeing like the same pitching. So like your metrics are fine. Probably just need to like prepare for the game a little more, and then like swing at strikes and don't swing at balls. Like it can be very simple like that. And another thing too with bat speed, as we see, and it comes back to like the preparation thing, is like, yeah, these guys might have super high bat speed, and okay, his values end up being on average like around the 663 or 64, 65 in area code. Why? It's like, well, because the dude was getting beat because his contact points like super deep in the zone. Like he never found a way to make contact out in front for his bat to speed up. So like, yes, he might be swinging the bat fast. He's just making the contacts so deep in the zone over and over again. And then you have to figure out why that is. Like, why are you making contact so deep in the zone over and over again? Why are you getting beat? And then that's where like the development becomes less guesswork and more just like, okay, we found the problem. Like now let's figure out a solution to make ourselves more prepared.
Yeah. That's awesome. Let's take that. Let's dive into our second player. We've got 3, so we're going on number 2. Joe, I think it was Addison Klepsch.
Yeah,
sorry if I butchered that with the last name Attl.
Yeah. No, I'll do Addison Klepsch. He's from your area, Del Norte. That's San Diego area, right?
Right where I'm at. Yeah, San Diego.
Yeah. So he made the flight over to Chicago for the Super 60, which was super cool. He's an Auburn commit. He's a little guy. He's 5'9", 179. He's a shortstop, second base type player. I know he's been on the mound a little bit. So, okay, I'll talk. He was our rotational acceleration leader. He averaged 27.2 Gs, pretty absurd. And he peaked at 34.5 Gs. So that bat is accelerating super fast into that peak bat speed. However, the bat speed it's around 69.4. It's like around 70 miles per hour for average. His peaked at 72.6. So like in theory, that is good bat speed. Again, like as we just talked about, there is sort of a bat speed curve in the showcase BP. We don't have in-game data on him. So I'd be really curious to see what it looks like in game. But if he has the same high intense swing that he's putting in, if it has that same bat speed from showcase and it carries over to in game, then yes, that's very positive. But I'd be on the lookout for that. I'd like to know that. His early connections around 98 degrees. It's a small variance, so it's a very low maintenance, repeatable swing, which is really nice. His on-plane efficiency is above 70%, so everything's in line there. His attack angle is a little steep for my taste on where his bat speed is right now. So in all, I think Klepsch is he's going to college. I think he should go to Auburn, and I think he could be a player like in 3 years, could be a first round type player with this profile. He is a very good candidate for bat speed training. And I think like it's been really cool. College baseball this year's been sick because it's been so offensive heavy. In the last year and a half, bat speed training and using blast has just been like explosive in colleges lately, especially with like Driveline and all the success stories of major leaguers and stuff like that, like Mookie Betts. And this is the first year I've seen like college baseball like all year, all the way around has just been like so dominant offensively. And I do like my intuition is like it has something to do with like intuition, and also just like common sense has it something to do with like everyone's trying to swing the bat harder and faster and quicker. Like shocker, like that's just going to help you compete better with pitching, I guess. So I do think that's playing into that. And I think there's a lot of players in college baseball who are good candidates for like bat speed training, where all these guys are like trying to focus on some sort of like mechanical thing they need, and they really just need to figure out how to swing the bat faster. And I think he's a really good candidate with that, especially with those rotational acceleration metrics. It's not like that's going to decrease over time. It's like you never see that. So I think he goes to Auburn, and I think he gets really strong. He gets on a good strength and conditioning program, stays healthy, gets flexible, and learns how to swing the bat faster. If he does everything else that he's doing, just with a faster bat, I really believe he could be like a first round type player like in 3 years. So that's kind of my thing with Ashton Klepsch. So
yeah. Joe and I go to the Super 60 every year. We always have such a good seat. We sit right behind the screen. We sit there with Sean Duncan. We look at players, and we are literally could not be closer to these guys. And I think every year we have to remind ourselves that we're looking at high schoolers. The way these guys are strong, the consistency that we see with their swings, what they're producing. We literally have to remind ourselves like these guys are in high school, because they are performing at they look like college guys. They're strong. They're very consistent with their bats, and they're really putting on a show. So I think that a lot of that stuff, kind of ties into that.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, no, I'm really excited about him. So all these California kids are going to the SEC now too, so they have like no choice but to just get stronger. So yeah, I think he's in a good spot. I couldn't find any like in-game data in him. I found a couple actually, but yeah, he said I'm going to watch more closely. I might send the interns out and go watch him. It's around out in the area anyway. So I'll go send Kate and Ryan out there. But yeah, no, that's pretty much that's all I got for Addison. I'm excited to follow him. But
yeah,
you want me to dive into the next guy?
Yeah, let's do this next guy, and we'll wrap it up.
All right. So the next guy I want to talk about, and just so like everyone knows, like everyone at the showcase was really good. I just picked 3 guys that I thought were most interesting to talk about. Everyone, like I could talk about all these guys all day. This could be a 10-hour podcast. If we had the time. So like, just so everyone knows, I was very impressed with everyone there. They all have a chance to be professional players, and they're all going to be very good college players if they all choose to do so. Okay, I'll start with Titus Cecil. He's from Missouri. He is committed to Missouri, so he's staying home. 6'1", 179, so pretty good frame. He plays with the Royal Scout team out there. They're actually a really good scout team, the Royal Scout team out there. But so when we're talking about Titus, you're basically talking about 2 hitters. He's a switch hitter. There's actually a good handful of switch hitters at Super 60 this year, but like for me, like whenever in years past, like I've always been very like hesitant about switch hitters because the pitching just got way better, way faster than the hitting did. Like in the past, like switch hitting was always a huge, plus for the draft. Years past, but like the last like 10 years of how much better the pitching got, like I started to be more hesitant on switchers. Just like, dang, it's a lot to maintain against these like flamethrowers up there who are throwing like 6 pitches at the same tunnel. It's like I don't know, but once in a while we do run into some like true switch hitters. I'll start with his right side, which I thought was his best side. It's a big engine. It's super efficient. It's fast and quick. It checks all the boxes. His rotational acceleration average is 23.2 Gs, and he got up to 30 Gs, 30.3 Gs. So super, super good there. His average speed was 72 miles per hour. He peaked at 75.2. So really good profile there. And he's got the body to put on more mass. It's lean. It looks lean. And then his like swing consistencies, it's the high AC it's pretty high. It's 114 degrees. It's out of range, but what's interesting is he still found a way to be around 90 degrees at connection impact. And his on-plane efficiency is at 70 degrees or 70% on average. So it's very similar to Lewis, where the variance is still small in that early connection. So like the load is still very repeatable. Is it starting high? Yes. But as you said, with the rotational acceleration, the high rotational acceleration guys, they still find a way to accelerate into that on plane quickly, despite the high early connection. So I'm not super concerned about that. And then the attack angle is like very much is in range. I think it's perfect for where he is right now. It's 12 degrees. Okay. Yeah, it was good. Is he a candidate for like a load change? Maybe in the future at some point. I don't think it's gonna present itself sometime near. Like I don't think it's gonna present itself in college. It might present itself when he's like in high A or something at some point.
Yeah. Well, there's always room to grow. I mean, player development is a journey, and having the performance that some of these guys have in high school and the success that they're getting, it's only going to get better as time goes on, just like anybody else. So it's so cool to have this as reference, because not only video and scouting reports, but actual data to follow over time. And we've seen that a lot with guys. Pete Alonso in college versus pro ball, I mean, his data got a lot better, and he was already amazing. So it was really cool to kind of see that stuff, and it's opportunity for these players to grow and get better. And that's probably what they're wanting too, at 17 or 18 as they approach college. Having room to grow is probably a good thing.
Yeah. And the early connection metric, which, basically for everyone listening, like we're basically talking about like the load, like what's going on, like getting into that start of the swing. And if it's like repeat, it's like the easiest thing to fix. It's like to clean up the load and make it more repeatable. And that works for the body type and all that. So it's not super concerning that that's like the one. And some guys go on to have really good major league careers with never cleaning that up just because they like other intent, bat speed and rotation acceleration and everything. So, but it's good. It's good to know that's something to be aware of. So that's the right side. The right side was really, really good. The left side, I'll start at the left side. I'll go up to the left side now. The RA is a little more fringe. The rotational acceleration is a little more fringe than the right side. It's 15 Gs. MLB average is 17.2 Gs. He did get up to 18.1. I don't know which one's his dominant side. I haven't talked to anyone whether they like either side. I wrote in my notes at the event that I liked his right side better, and then his metrics were better on the right side as well. So the left side, it's not bad though. Like 15 Gs is still really good.
Yeah. The better of two good categories.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm comparing one to the other. And then the bat speed, it's MLB average. It's like it's 70. It's pretty much 71 miles per hour on average, and you go up to 75.9. Again, we can always talk about this. Probably some sort of BP bat speed curve. Don't have any game data on him right now, so hard to tell. The swing consistency, like the early connection metric, is at 92 degrees. So actually, it's almost like he should steal things from each part of the swing to combine it to one, because his swing is very consistently the same on the left side. So he had 92 degrees of early connection. Super small variance. I think it was like a 20 degree variance, which is like really small. Anyone doesn't know that. So it's a really nice repeatable load. A good familiar phrase for this would be like, it's a low maintenance swing. Yeah. So, and then his on plane efficiency was 80% as well. So he was on plane with the ball for a long time, and his attack angle, average attack angle, is similar to his left hand or his right side, which is 12 degrees. The left side was 13 degrees. So that's pretty similar as well, which I think is a good spot for him for where his bat speed is. But so like, I do think he's a true switch hitter. I think both sides have potential to play really well at some point in Major League Baseball. I think if he was just a right-handed hitter with that super high G and super high bat speed, I don't know. It's hard to tell because you're just splitting in game at bats so much. So like, he's probably facing more right-handers than he is left-handers in high school. So I don't know how much he's getting a chance to hit right-handed. So I don't know. I'd be really curious to see what his production looks like from the right side or left side in games, in like competitive games. So I almost want to see him go to Missouri because I want to see that and see what it looks like, and maybe he ends up just hitting right, or I don't know.
Yeah.
So I don't know. If they're both they can both be competitive. So like my only question is always like, if one becomes less competitive, what do you do? And and then like, you want more left-handed hitters though. So I don't know. Anyways, he's a true switch hitter. He can play. Both will contribute at some point, I think. The left side's definitely a candidate for a load adjustment. So maybe that can help too on the left side. Or for the right side, I should say. But yeah.
Yeah, it's a good breakdown. I love hearing all the times we break down, and a lot of times we get a lot more information on guys, so we're getting a full picture of it.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, I mean, it sounds like we're talking all this data and it could be really technical, but once you understand these metrics and you've worked with hitters or evaluated them, it really becomes seamless. I think when we were first starting to sign major league organizations starting in 2017, they would go on a trial and they'd collect data on players. And then we would say, hey man, just send us 5 guys. Don't tell us who they are. And we'll break down the data just on what we see. And for the most part, we got a lot of, wow, how did you know that about this guy? And it's because there's certain swing characteristics that we measure, like early connection, on plane efficiency. We talk about things in the consistency in the load, or where the speed is, what the attack angle looks like. And those things are indicative of being consistent at the plate and being able to do damage. So if you were to just look at data, you can kind of get an idea of how consistent the load is, what the swing path looks like. And then when you start to really understand who that hitter is, because you see them, you're evaluating them, maybe you're a coach and you see them and you work with them every day and you see their at-bats, the two kind of seamlessly blend together really, really nicely. And tying this back, I mean, this is specifically about PBR and the Super 60. They do such a good job of evaluating players with the best tech in the game and people that understand how baseball is. They've seen a lot of good hitters come through. They know what it looks like. So the merge of those two worlds is always so interesting to look at, and really we'll take it back to the enhanced perspective of kind of what's going on and being able to see. So I love seeing you break down guys. Hopefully as the audience here, they really start to understand the value of what we're measuring and seeing it in themselves. I mean, we've got adoption at the pro level all the way down through colleges, academies, and we're seeing all age levels really benefit from our technology and kind of understand their swing metrics. So congrats to everyone that was at the Super 60, Tyson Lewis, Addison Klepsch, and Tyson Sissel. Titus Sissel, really good job. You stood out to us and clearly to Joe. You were here for us to highlight. And Joe, thanks so much for coming on. If you haven't been to a PBR event, check out your local state director, know who they are, sign up for an event, figure out your metrics. You can always visit us at blastmotion.com, pick up a sensor. We've got discount codes out there, so you'll always be able to kind of save a little on your sensor. And happy training. Joe, thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah.
For all of you listening, we'll see you guys next episode and enjoy the rest of your day.